on more. Holy jeez.
I believe we're live on YouTube and Facebook, and James is here, so we can start the meeting, and I'll ask the clerk for the roll call.
Good evening, Your Worship. All members are present.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is review and revision and deletions to the agenda. I believe there's one amendment, or one, okay, we'll do that separately. Okay, we'll go on to the approval of the agenda first. So we got a motion be resolved the City Council approves the agenda as printed, moved by Councilor Ferrier, second by Councilor MacArthur. So all in favor? That is carried. And get into disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature. I'll ask the clerk was any pecuniary interest tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Foley declared a conflict of pecuniary interest on section 16, closed session, item B, under section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act, due to the collective agreement negotiations, as his father and sister both work for the City of Temiskaming Shores.
Thank you very much. Any other conflict of interest tonight?
Under section 239(2)D.
Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6, the review and adoption of the council minutes. And I got a motion be it resolved that City Council approves the following minutes as printed. The A is the regular meeting of council that was held on November the 3rd, 2020. Mover and second, Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Jelly. All in favor? That is carried. There's no public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act or Municipal Act or other statutes. We've reached the first question and answer period. Anybody jumped online there with a question at all? So, anybody else got any questions at this point? If not, we'll move right into the presentations. And tonight we have a presentation from Sergeant Kelly Withrow, the Ontario Provincial Police, regarding the Ontario Provincial Police contract renewal. So I think she's going to be online here. Sergeant Kelly, are you online?
Yes, thank you. I am here.
Well, welcome very much, sir. We'll entertain your presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, municipal staff, and community members. My name is Kelly Withrow, and I am a sergeant working out of the Municipal Policing Bureau of the OPP. Our bureau is primarily responsible for managing municipal policing agreements with various stakeholders, and upon request made by municipalities to the Minister of Solicitor General, we develop OPP municipal policing contract proposals. We also oversee the transition process in those circumstances where municipal policing services disband and the OPP assumes responsibility for providing policing services. Slide 2. This is an outline of what I will address this evening. I will speak to information regarding OPP annual expenditures, the OPP billing model, historical costs and trends, contract renewal process, and the new Community Safety and Policing Act 2019. Slide 3. The provincial government provides the OPP with a provincial policing budget of $1.174 billion. 64% of that, or $752 million, is a provincial responsibility, and 35%, or $409 million, is a municipal responsibility. The 64%, or $752 million, is a provincial responsibility and therefore is provided to the municipalities of the OPP Police at no cost recovery, where the 35%, or the $409 million, is a municipal responsibility, which means that these resources are provided to the municipalities but at a cost recovery, which means that the OPP needs to recover $409 million to provide back to the provincial government. Slide 4. So what does this mean? Well, on the provincial responsibility side, it accounts for 64% of the $1.174 billion budget, or $752 million. So as I said, this is provided to all the municipalities of the OPP Police at no cost recovery. This includes such things as traffic safety, investigations, intelligence, specialized response teams such as our TRUE team, our ERT team, search and rescue, our auxiliary unit, community safety, Indigenous policing, and our unincorporated territories. So again, this is a provincial responsibility, which means that these resources are provided to the OPP Police municipalities at no cost recovery. Slide 5. Now the 35%, or the $409 million, is a municipal responsibility, which means that this money needs to be recovered by all the municipalities of the OPP Police and provided back to the provincial government. These resources include detachment staff, which includes supervision, frontline constables, and civilian support, as well as support positions such as our communication operations, prison guards, academy, and regional headquarters. Slide 6. So how do we recover this $409 million? We do it through what's called the OPP billing model. So let me start from the beginning with how the OPP billing model came into effect. So the OPP billing model was introduced to our municipalities on January 1st, 2015, after a 2012 Auditor General's report that directed the OPP to review the billing process. The Auditor General was receiving concerns from municipalities indicating that they were confused by the old billing model, they couldn't understand it, and were wondering why some municipalities were paying $34 per property, while others were paying $895 per property. So the Auditor General reviewed the previous billing model and realized that, yep, the municipalities were right. The Auditor General agreed that the billing model was confusing and needed to be more transparent. So they made some recommendations. These recommendations were for the OPP to create a new billing model that was more fair and more transparent. So from 2012 until January 1st, 2015, the OPP worked closely with the Solicitor General and all of our municipalities and came up with this new billing model, which we call the OPP billing model. So this diagram that you're looking at depicts the development of our model with its deep roots in engagement sessions and consultations with ministries, agencies, associations, and our municipalities. To the left of the slide, each line represents a municipality and how much they were paying in 2014 prior to the model. Dollars being the scale from top to bottom. You can see how the gap or disparity has been addressed through the implementation of the model. To address the transparency, new reports have been created to share with municipalities specific information related to their billing. Annually, we hold webinars when the statements are distributed to explain the statements. We go out and we do presentations and explanations at the request of municipalities, just as we're here tonight, and we post all of our information on opp.ca for public access. Slide 7. So this slide captures the municipal policing responsibility and how the cost is recovered. So remember on the first 3 slides where I showed you the provincial budget and the cost recovery? This is how it's broken down to recover the $409 million. So now, as you can see, the numbers are slightly different in the recovery, and this is only because the $409 million is the 2019 reconciled numbers, and this slide is the $411 million is the 2020 estimated numbers. As you can see, the cost recovery is broken down into 3 categories. You have your base services, calls for service, and other costs. Base services are allocated on a per property basis, being $183.23 for a total cost recovery of $210.8 million. So currently the OPP police 326 municipalities and over 1,150,000 properties. So the calculation would be $183.23 multiplied by the 1,150,000 properties, which gives you the cost recovery for base services of $210.8 million. So every property that the OPP police are charged the $183.23. Now, calls for service are based on each municipality's usage for a cost recovery of $162.8 million. So think of this as a big pot of money. And in this pot is $162.8 million. Each of the 326 municipalities that the OPP police need to pay a portion of this pot. The way that we calculate each municipality's portion is by their usage. And then finally, additional costs are billed to municipalities on their specific usage at a cost recovery of $38 million. Slide 8. So just to break it down a little bit more, your base service is your proactive policing. And they're, as I said, allocated among all municipalities on an equal per property basis. So when I say property, I mean household, commercial, and industrial property. The 2020 cost per property is $183.23, which was down from last year's $189.54 per property. This base service cost per property is charged to all the 1,150,000 properties at the OPP police. This base service includes your proactive policing, so things such as your crime prevention, your ride spot checks, traffic safety, community policing, officer safety, administrative duties, and all inspector and staff sergeant positions. Our calls for service are allocated costs to the municipalities based on their individual usage. Calls for service represents costs related to your reactive policing services, which means actually having somebody picking up the phone and having the police attend for a break and enter, mischief, an assault, whatever the case may be. Municipalities are billed for the actual number and types of calls that they receive. All calls for service are based on 9 time standards applied to the municipality's 4-year average call for service to determine their total weighted hours of calls for service. The reason that we do a 4-year rolling average is so that if your municipality has a big year and you have a major call or a major spike in calls for service one year, it ends up evening out with the rolling average so you don't suffer for that year. The calls for service accounts for $162 million of the $409 million to be recovered. And finally, let's look at the additional costs. These additional costs account for the final $38 million of the $409 million cost recovery. This includes your overtime, court security, prisoner transportation, accommodation and cleaning, and enhancements. So with overtime, municipalities are billed for overtime resulting from occurrences in your geographical area. So if you use it, you pay for it. Court security, municipalities that have a court are responsible for the cost of the court security activities. If your municipality does not have a court, you are not charged for court security. Prisoner transportation is based on a per property basis, which for 2020 was $1.99. The reason for this cost is that every municipality requires prisoner transportation, whether it be to transport to court, to jail, whatever the case may be. Accommodation and cleaning is only applied to municipalities that require the OPP to provide accommodation and cleaning. If your municipality provides their own, you are not charged. This is based on a per property cost of $4.78. And finally, with enhancements. If your municipality chooses to have an enhancement, you pay for it 100%. An enhancement is a dedicated position assigned to do what the municipality requires. So for example, if your municipality wants a school liaison officer, you're welcome to have one, but you will pay for it 100%. Slide 9. This slide shows cost recovery trends at the provincial level. The blue bar is all elements combined in the cost recovery, and the green bar shows the average cost per property from 2015 to 2020. In 2020, the average cost per property is $358. This shows that although the recovered costs continue to rise, the cost per property for municipalities remains stable. For 2021, we expect a cost recovery of $414 million with an average cost per property of $356. Slide 10. Specific to Temiskaming Shores, information on this slide outlines the cost trends since 2015. As you can see, your municipality in 2019 had $455 per property. In 2020, it was $462 per property, and in 2021, it will be $472 per property. Slide 11. This is your 2021 annual billing statement. This statement shows just Temiskaming Shores. So what this statement tells me is that your municipality has 5,280 properties, and that your municipal portion or usage for calls for service is 0.7355%. It also tells me that your overtime is average across the province, court security is average, and the prisoner transportation and accommodation and cleaning is on a per property basis. So for 2021, your cost per property will be $472. Slide 12. So the OPP contract renewal process is laid out in this slide. This is the reason that we're here today. Your contract for policing services with the OPP is expiring at the end of the year, and we're here to renew that contract. In October, our OPP financial unit calculated the 2021 OPP billing estimates. With these numbers, we drafted your new OPP contract proposal, which you have seen. Your municipality then reviews the proposal and draft contract, and you make a decision to accept or decline the proposal. If you accept, you need to determine whether you want to go with a 3, 4, 5, or 6-year contract. You will then pass a bylaw indicating the years in the bylaw. I then take the bylaw and I create the actual contract, which I send to you for signature. You also have the option to decline the proposal, in which case you will then revert to a Section 5.1 policing. Slide 13. Now, with all this information, keep in mind the new Community Safety and Policing Act will take effect possibly next year. With COVID happening, it could be the year after. This new CSPA will replace the existing Police Services Act. In this new act, there will be no contracts to provide municipal policing. This eliminates the distinction between a Section 10 and a 5.1. There will be provisions offered to municipalities who wish to have enhancements, and municipalities will be able to choose to continue to be policed by the OPP and become part of an OPP detachment board, or your municipality can choose to form a municipal board or an amalgamate board. Slide 14. And of course, we have helpful online resources for everyone through the internet at opp.ca or through Twitter at opp_mun_pol. Slide 15. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email them to me or please direct them to your Policing Services Board. Thank you.
Are you able to take some questions right here tonight?
Sure, absolutely.
We got any questions from some of the councillors? Councillor MacArthur?
Yes, I would just like to ask you to clear the situation up when it comes to the sunshine list. And you look at the number of OPP officers and probably staff management that are on this list. Now, I think the average taxpayer understands that a lot of this is overtime, you know, because let's face the facts, you don't work 9 to 5 or you do have 3 shifts or 2 shifts. But I was just wondering, what about the officers and staff on leave of absence for various reasons? Is there a separate situation there, or is that a part of the salary and that goes into with the overtime as well?
Yeah, no, so we do a calculation. So the way that we calculate is through what we call a DAR, daily activity reporting. So anybody who is on a leave of absence, you are not charged for them.
Other questions? Oh, Councillor Hewitt, sorry.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Absolutely needed, and it's obviously, you know, it's a complex budget to understand, and we particularly need this for our constituents, not only for councillors. Few questions in regards to the presentation in my package. I had a few questions in regards to capped versus capped, and I don't know that I've seen that in this presentation, whereas I seen that in a previous presentation. So maybe you can just slide that and provide that.
Sorry, your cap numbers? Is that what you're asking?
Correct. So where it talks about before cap and then capped, not sure what the parameters are around that. I'd like for you to provide that explanation to both council and the public.
Yeah, absolutely. So what that was all about is in 2015, when we implemented the new billing model, sorry, I'm just experiencing a lot of feedback. So when we implemented the new billing model on January 1st, 2015, we put it through knowing that the next 5 years were going to really affect the municipalities. So what they did is some municipalities that were paying super low, if they were starting to become an average cost per property, then we didn't want that to affect them in a great way. So what it was saying was that, yes, although your cost per property is going up, we're not just going to throw that price at you and expect you to pay it in 1 year. So what we did is we took it over 5 years, and we had a max cap, which said that we can't make you pay any more than a certain amount, so that you know, your municipality isn't affected in a great way. So that's all it is. It's actually gone now. 2020 was the last year that you will ever see it capped. So we will now be back to, you will just pay the amount that's on your annual billing statement.
You got other questions, Councillor Hewitt? Do you want to turn your mic back on if you're... Okay. Councillor Whalen, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation. I'm actually a member of the Police Services Board, but I have, over the last couple of days, fielded some questions from other council members. Could you possibly just give us a quick explanation as how the school board properties affect the OPP billing, and what would be considered proactive policing versus a call for service in within school properties, and whether they're provincial or municipal responsibilities? Is that clear enough?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can answer what you're asking. So with a school, The way that it works is not all municipalities have a school in their municipality, but if you do, then there are some proactive policing. So officers will attend just to walk through the school, do some meet and greet, talk with the students, talk with the teachers, that sort of thing. That's considered proactive policing. So that's your base service. But if there is a call, so say for example there's a drug call at your school and a police officer has to attend, then that would be considered a call for service, and that's something that you will pay for.
Other questions?
Good, thanks.
Other questions? Councillor Jelly.
Yes, thanks, Kelly, for giving us that presentation tonight. I just have probably more of a comment than a question. You referred to the fact that when a member is off on some type of leave, whether it be medical, suspension, or whatever, we're not billed for that particular officer. That being the case, I understand that, but I'm just concerned how that affects proactive policing in the area. Because at our last police service board meeting, I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong, and I don't know if Joelle was with you tonight or not, I believe there was 12 officers pointed out that were off for one reason or another, some of them of course being accommodated and working. But I'm just wondering how that affects the proactive part of policing. If you have that many officers off, I think you're looking at more than a platoon. So it would certainly be an increase likely in overtime that we'll see in a couple of years as the way the billing model goes. But how is that working now as far as proactive policing? And I'm not complaining or criticizing, I'm curious. I feel our detachment does a very good job, but I'm concerned about the members that are off and what stress up it's on the others and what it has on our proactive policing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what happens is we use what's called an availability factor. So what that is that's 1,417 hours a year that we're required to provide to your municipality. So if we, for example, if your detachment has 12 officers off and we have to call other officers in on overtime, that is not being charged as overtime because that is being put towards your availability factor. So we, as I said, need to provide you with 17 hours. If we don't meet those hours, then you are not charged for those hours. If we happen to go over, then we just consider it not a free service, but you're not required to pay anymore. So, as I said, if we're lower, then that's where you get refunds provided, and you're not required to pay more. So if there's members off, then yeah, sometimes we do have to call other officers in, but yeah, you're not charged extra overtime for that.
Yeah, if I may, Joel Bro, detachment commander there. I've been listening to the presentation. Thanks for doing that, Kelly. If I may point out, we do have a minimum staffing levels that we try to maintain. And we'll reach out to officers to make sure that we have a minimum number of officers working, and that's where your proactive measures and time is spent. We are very conscious that we need guys on the road and available to answer calls for service. And then when they're not doing calls for service, then that's when they step up and do the proactive thing.
Thanks, Joel. Any other questions? So, I just wonder where you get the number of households. Do you get that from an MPAC assessment roll? I mean, you're looking at 4,857 households, and like normally we end up with about 3,800, which is the number that we usually end up using for our number of households in the city. So,
yeah, we take that right from MPAC.
Okay, good. If there's no other questions, I'll thank Joel and then Sergeant Withrow. Appreciate your presentation tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to move along with the next presentation. We have Mr. James Franks with us tonight, our Economic Development Officer, regarding the Culinary Tourism Project update. Welcome, James.
Good evening. Are we on? You can hear me? Wonderful. Good. Well, members of council, thanks for this invitation to give you an update on where we are with the culinary tourism project. I don't know if you remember, but in 2018 we did an enhanced Lake Temiskaming tour product development program with the Culinary Tourism Alliance, and that sort of was our strategy on how we were going to do culinary tourism for the city and the surrounding region for the next few years. And it was a good document, but the reality was we just didn't have the capacity to be able to implement it. So when the Canadian Experiences Fund came out in 2019, we took advantage of that fund to apply for some additional dollars to enable us to get some money to actually do some training for the businesses and develop some experiences that we could use, and some marketing dollars along with that program. So this started back in early 2019 when we applied for those funds. So the tour, the intent of the tour is to provide cultural experiences and culinary experiences of this region so that when tourists come here, they're able to taste our good products and services and restaurants, etc., that we've developed over the last few years. So that, can I get the next one? So the idea of the culinary is to keep people longer, to provide another experience, etc., so we can keep them in the community longer, spend more money. So the next step was we use the services again of the Culinary Tourism Alliance and use them. What the intent was to do in-house training with some of our service providers, restaurants, food producers, and those other food services such as Riverside Farmers Market. Unfortunately, COVID hit while we were at that point of doing the training, so we ended up moving all of that training online, which was a concern for us, and in some cases, a couple of the providers decided to back out at that point. They didn't think they would get the same experience, but many stayed on. We ended up with a total of 11 businesses in the area that signed up and took the training, and we provided several online sessions, some in English, some in French, and they were able to learn from experts in the field of culinary tourism experience development, some online sales processes for those that were producing products and selling them now online. So some expert training on how to do that, as well as working with each other to see how the producers might be able to work with the local restaurants and providers to move additional products and get more awareness throughout our own region. So those trainings took place in May of this year, as I mentioned, online, and we were able to develop 15 experiences through the 11 partners that joined, and we had on the Digital Main Street program where we did the online training, they had 23 participants participate in that training, and some of them even went with Digital Main Street and got one-on-one training specific to their organization or their business. And so they all explained that was extremely valuable to their business, and in this time of online business, very helpful. So in September, that would be, next slide, sorry. Yeah, so, there you go. Here's an example of, these are the experiences that were developed. Now, I don't know, those of you that are online, that might be very small to see, but so certain various, from farm tours to tasting of local products, to restaurant experiences that have been developed to promote not only the restaurant, but the local foods from the region for people to try. Next one. And so the next piece of the program, now that we've developed these experiences, is then to market them. And so at your last meeting, you saw a request come from the funder, well, from us through the funder, to extend the project into 2021. Because our original proposal was that these experiences and the training would have been done in the spring of 2020. We've been marketing them through this summer and seeing our guests visit. But due to COVID, we felt this is not the right time to be doing the marketing piece of the program. So we went back to the funder and suggested that we look at pushing that marketing into 2021 so that we'd be encouraging those visitors later and once the market reopens. So, is an example of a city bus. So the Riverside Farmers Market is putting a promotion onto the city bus. Through our marketing program, we're able to offset some of their costs of doing that. So we partner with them, they pay half, the project pays half, allows them to get some extra marketing value. While, and it doesn't show in this picture, while also on the bus there would be a Lake Temiskaming Tour logo, therefore re-promoting the program itself, the tourism program. And so it's been very successful. Many businesses have taken advantage of it and used it to enhance their local and regional marketing programs. Moving on, there's the financial part. So this gives you an idea of the dollars, where they'll be spent. What I've done is to try and give an idea of the timeline of when we're going to be spending, and an educated guess of the leverage of that spend. So, for example, the first thing you're looking at is a tear-out map pad that the businesses would be given so they could give a map to where the next location they might want to send people to. So there's a printing cost associated with that. It's being developed. So it's going to cost about $2,500, but the value of that is more because we hope to increase the sales by sending them to the next participant, etc. Anyway, that gives you an idea of more of the marketing costs are late this year, having stuff prepared, but the actual marketing that's going to go to the consumer will be in the summer of 2021. So that would be the marketing campaign. What else do I have for you? And I'll ask, we've been partnering with, obviously, FedNor for this project since day one. They funded it to the tune of $193,000. And we've also partnered with Destination Northern Ontario, who's been promoting culinary tourism experience development across the region, not only with Temiskaming Shores, but in various communities, North Bay, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie. And and they've recently, at the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario conference last month, actually won an award for the work they've done to enhance culinary tourism across Northern Ontario. So it was good to see that our project was one of the ones they used as the examples of that. Through the summer, we also worked on a program with Destination Northern Ontario related to culinary, with a program called Balado, and that's going to be developed as an app for Francophone tourists. We are the first in Northern Ontario to be completed. Again, it's not yet released. It's just timing is poor. So that will be released probably in the spring of 2021 through Destination Northern Ontario and Destination Ontario, as they start to encourage folks from around the world to look at Ontario. And obviously Francophone tourists will be marketed with that app. And last, you probably, hopefully you saw that in the Globe and Mail we had an article partnered with DNO, and we got some great feedback on that article, and even some local restaurants told me that they had received guests after seeing that article. So it's wonderful to hear that some of those programs are connecting with folks on the ground and making a difference. Anyway, then I think that's about it.
Questions for James? Councillor Whalen.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, James. Interesting stuff. I don't have a problem with it. The only thing I do question if we go back to the forecast where we spend this much, you have that page there. Is that on a good year or a COVID year?
So that's estimated in 2021.
With COVID or
Without.
before COVID?
Yeah.
Because most organizations are currently in the process of writing off 2021 as far as, the restrictions are still going to be in place. We actually have several residents that would like it if we could barricade Highway 11, but that's not going to happen. So it's, I support the idea. We have to be cautious because we're going to be a while getting out of this yet.
Sure, and the marketing focus because of COVID has been, I guess, turned towards more focus on Northern Ontario consumers. So there'll be more focus on inviting other Northerners to stay in the North. So, I mean, more of those dollars are going to be spent across North Bay, Sudbury, Timmins region to encourage people to visit here and vice versa. So, yes, you're right. It isn't a science. We're still going through it. But certainly through this summer, as worried as we were with the tourism season, many operators, I don't want to say everybody, but many of the operators felt that they had an all right season, better than they anticipated. I'm not saying that we're breaking any records, but overall, tourism did come here, whether we invited it or not, and many operators have told us that the numbers were still okay.
Other questions? How did the virtual Royal Winter Fair event work out? Did you get many hits or many contacts there at all, James? We're looking at probably PDAC going virtual in the spring. How's that going to influence all that?
Yeah, I participated several times last week at the Royal Winter Fair. Destination Northern Ontario had a booth, and they were looking for assistance in staffing the booth. Realistically, from a tourism perspective, it wasn't effective. So in order to speak to someone at our booth, they would have had to click on the booth, read something on Destination Northern Ontario's website. We had some videos posted there, and people did click on and watch the videos, and there's value in that. But then they also would have had to click on chat to ask a question. And I didn't get one request, so the times that I was. So I would say the folks that were at the Royal Winter Fair were looking for food producers, and I think they did get some response. From a tourism perspective, I don't know that it was, the virtual thing didn't work as well as a face-to-face experience. But as I mentioned, so there was zero cost for us to participate other than the staff time to be there. I think the fact that we were able to get our website linked to the event, I haven't heard yet, the Royal Winter Fair, what their actual numbers of attendees were, so that will be interesting. And I'm hoping they're going to be able to tell us how many linked to each video or website in Temiskaming Shores. And I'll bring that back to you when I get it.
Any other questions? If not, thanks, James, for coming in and making that presentation. It's good to know about that program, and where the dollar is being spent there, so that's great. Thank you very much. So, moving on, item number 10 is the communications. 10A is a letter from the Ontario Ombudsman regarding the 2019-2020 annual report, the facts and the highlights that's received for our information. 10B is a letter from the Little Claybelt Homesteaders Museum regarding the Claybelt Spreader, November 2020 edition. That's received for our information. 10C is a letter from Matt McDonald, the Director of Corporate Services at City Clerk for the City of Belleville, looking for support for the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, the website upgrades. That was received on October the 28th for our information. 10D is a letter from Catalina Blumenberg, the clerk for the County of Prince Edward, looking for support regarding the changes to Bill 218, supporting Ontario's Recovery and Municipal Elections Act, and that was received on November the 3rd for our information. 10E is a letter from Danny Whalen, the President of FNOM, regarding their media release for the 2021 Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. It was received on November the 3rd as well for our information. We're slightly down again this year, and most other municipalities were up, so we seem to keep losing somehow. But so, 10F is a letter from the Town of Grimsby, looking for support for the proposed regulation under the Ontario Heritage Act, Bill 108. That was received for our information. 10G is a letter from Fred Eisenberger, the Mayor of the City of Hamilton, looking for support for amending the AGCO licensing and application process for cannabis retail stores to consider radial separation from other cannabis locations. That was received on November the 6th. 10H is the Municipal Court Managers Association of Ontario regarding the Provincial Offences Act modernization. That's received on November the 6th. There's a motion to be presented on the new business there. 10I is a letter from Mercedes LaBelle, the Northern Policy Institute, regarding Picture Yourself Here, an economic snapshot of Temiskaming Shores. It's quite interesting reading on that, so it's received for our information. 10J is a letter from John Vantoff, the MPP for Temiskaming Cochrane, regarding Bill 226. The Broadband is an Essential Service Act, and that was received on November the 6th. And there's a motion to be presented on the new business for that as well. And 10K is a letter from Doug Jelly, the board chair for the District of Temiskaming Social Services Administrative Board, and it's regarding the 2021 rent freeze, and that was received on November the 9th for our information. 10L is a letter from Leslie Caros, the COVID-19 Media Relations Officer for the Temiskaming Hospital Board, announced the retirement of 2 of their board members, and that was received on November the 9th. 10M is a letter from Matt McDonald, the Director of Corporate Services and the City Clerk for the City of Belleville, regarding the Bill 218, proposing changes to the Municipal Elections Act, extension of the nomination period, and that was received on November the 10th. And lastly, a letter from Tanya Daniels, the City Clerk for the City of Brantford, regarding Bill 218, regarding ranked ballots for municipal elections, and that's received for information on November the 12th. So, got a motion be resolved that City Council agrees to deal with communication items 10A through 10N according to the agenda references. Councillor Ferry move that. Councillor MacArthur, second it. Any comments? Councillor MacArthur?
Yes, I think that we should be looking at item D, and this is to do with the Municipal Elections Act, and it ties in with M and N, and it's all about ranked ballots and changing the times of when you can put your name in and when it ends, and it's some major changes to the Election Act, and I think it should be definitely looked at by this council as well.
Do you want some kind of report, Councillor MacArthur, or how do you want to handle that?
Well, it seems that from what I read from these different municipalities, they're not happy with the changes, and they think that the Municipal Elections Act should be run by the municipalities like they've always been run. So I don't know if any staff member has time to look into this, but I think it's going to affect 444 municipalities, and it looks like the Ontario government want to change some things in it. And from what I can read, these folks don't feel that there should be a major change.
Yeah, there seems to be options where they have ranked ballots or whether they have just the regular type of balloting that we've had for many, many years. So that's one change that seemed to have the option of taking one or the other in certain municipalities. So I don't know. That's one part. And then just the actual timing for the nominations closing and the actual election. So that's, some want to extend that period a little bit longer and some want to shorten that up there. So, but I don't know whether the clerk could maybe make a short presentation on what the changes that we're looking at and get back to council. Sure. Okay. So, any other comments on the correspondence? Councillor Hewitt?
Yeah, I would just like to mention item I in regards to the Northern Policy Institute. It's a very interesting and informative read. And, you know, we spent some substantial dollars supporting a Come North conference, and some of the correspondence that come out of that is developed here. I'd love to see a presentation from Northern Policy Institute and this type of work continued, specifically for, you know, in regards to the work that we hope to achieve with Come North. I know it comes at bad timing with COVID, but some really good work, and many individuals and organizations represented various sectors and came together for that conference. And I would just like to see that brought back on the agenda, and perhaps a presentation or from Northern Policy Institute, or a further you know, conference once things are allowed to support such an event.
I think we can definitely put this on our website. That wouldn't be too much of a job to put the actual presentation onto our website for sure, that people can actually read that information. So that there was a presentation not too long ago on from the Northern Policy Institute, just about a month ago or something, was it not, for some different information that came out? They issued something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but Councillor Whalen, you remember that as well?
It was online, eh?
Yeah. So maybe we could pull up that information and put that on our website as well. So, okay. Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the addition of when the correspondence was received. You know, sometimes we get something we kind of remember talking about that a month ago, so it's a nice addition. I agree the report from the Policy Institute is very valuable. The only comment I'll make on changes to the Election Act, the biggest ruckus there is the fact that municipalities weren't consulted at all about those changes. They were just implemented, so that's what the uproar is about.
Okay. So I don't think there'll be a lot of changes in this area, the way we have operated the election in the last couple of years, but there may be some minor changes, but so, okay. Any other comments? If not, I'll call a question. Oh, Councillor Hewitt, sorry.
In regards to item L, and two board members stepping down from the Temiskaming Hospital that have been significant individuals in our community for a long time on various boards, but special thank you to extended for Pat Willard and Mr. Landrieu, I think should come from council members.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor of that motion? That would be carried. And moving on to item number 11, the committees of council, community and regional. A motion be resolved the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Twisting Shores Development Corporation meeting that was held on October the 7th, 2020. We're moving to second for that motion. Councillor Foley, sorry. So, seconded by Councillor Jelly. Thank you, sir. All in favor? That is carried. There are no committees of council of the internal departments. Are there any reports by members of council tonight? So Councillor Whalen.
Sure, I'll have a go. Just quickly, I want to say how nice the website is. Easy to negotiate, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't tried searching a bylaw yet. I'm saving an afternoon for that. But it's a job well done. It looks good, and it's very presentable. The other thing I was thinking about on the way down here, you know, without the village Noel, and I'm assuming no Santa Claus parade, we didn't get anybody out for Remembrance Day. Might be nice during one of the mayor's morning chants if you encourage more house decorating, and you know, maybe get people to get out, drive around, and appreciate the effort that's put into that.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
You know, it's not about me out putting up Christmas decorations, it's about the kids that see them. So, and this is going to be a tough enough year for the kids, so that, I just thought that might be nice. The other thing I wanted to mention, I guess on a corporate services side, is the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund has been reduced about, I think it works out just under $80,000, but it's our transition funding that's gone. And what that means is our assessment has gone up enough that according to our financial returns, we should be at an almost equalization point. My comment on that is I could see by the end of this term of council, not to upset the city manager, but I can see we're going to be almost at the $3 million mark because it's going to continue. I had a lengthy discussion with MPACT, and new assessment loan for 2020 in Northern Ontario was $477 million. 341 of that was in Northeastern Ontario. And out of the municipalities in Temiskaming, 18 of them all showed an assessment increase, new assessment. So I see that trend continuing at least to the end of this council. So we might want to start forecasting at the $3 million mark rather than 3.1 and change. So just a heads up.
Any other reports? Just thank Danny for, I know when my kids were young, we used to always take them for a drive there and look around the different house decorations there. That was always a thrill there to go some evening doing that. I did attend the MAD sort of grand opening of their program, photo opportunity actually, I guess, at the OPP station. So they're running their red ribbon campaign between now and the end of the year. So just there is red ribbons I put out in the office here if anybody wants to put red ribbons on their antennas. So that's a great program. Just also want to highlight the Hillbury business people are having their laying of the lights. I believe it's this Friday night. And they'll actually drive by Santa. They'll have Santa sitting out on the curb there that people can actually drive by in their vehicles there. So that's a great thing as well. So just note that Chris handed me here that Ida Hilson would like you to remind people about the Christmas Farmers Market this weekend. Starts Friday, November 20th from 12 till 8, 12 noon till 8 p.m. And again on Saturday, November the 21st from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So that's the Christmas Farmers Market. So it'll be the last farmers market for the year. So thanks, Chris. Okay. And I think that's everything I have there. So moving on to notice of motions. Has anybody got a notice of motion tonight? If not, we'll jump right into the new business. 15A is the support for the Municipal Court Managers Association of Ontario, the Provincial Offences Act modernization, and they have like long resolutions. So, whereas the Provincial Offences Act courts play an integral role in the Ontario Court of Justice system with an average of 1.5 million POA hearing events held across the province annually. And whereas during the pandemic, the current OCJ order extending most time limitations under the POA and the suspension of in-person proceedings has created additional unanticipated pressures on the POA court system. And whereas without significant improvements and a system that promotes greater flexibility and innovation, municipalities are at a disadvantage to move forward. And whereas the partner municipalities have demonstrated their ability over the last 20 years to deliver excellence in court services and respond to the local needs of the court users, and whereas the pandemic has amplified the concerns municipalities have long had with the operation of the POA courts, with the need for advancement of modernization through an organized, measured partnership approach, B, the demonstration of equal partnership and sharing responsibilities through meetings between the municipal leaders, the Premier, the Attorney General, and the Ministry of Transportation to discuss the current issues at POA courts across the province, and C, urgent legislation and regulatory reforms. Now therefore be resolved that the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby supports the Municipal Court Managers Association of Ontario, the call on the province to provide support to municipalities relating to COVID-related backlogs, provide solutions to improve access to justice, create a sustainable justice system through the enforcement of court-ordered fines and decreasing cost to POA, and improve partnership to streamline and modernize provincial offences court program. So, we're moving and second for that motion. By Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15D is support for Bill 226, the Broadband is an Essential Service Act. And the motion reads, whereas on November the 6th, 2020, MPP John Vantoff, Temiskaming Cochrane, and Nipissing tabled the Broadband is an Essential Service Act, Bill 226, which would legislate the provincial government to develop and implement a high-speed internet strategy to ensure 95% of Ontarians have internet access by 2026, and the remaining 5% of Ontarians by 2030. Now therefore be it resolved that Council for the Corporation of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby supports Bill 26, the Broadband is an Essential Service Act, which will be debated for second reading on November the 26th, 2020, and then a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Laurie Scott, the Minister of Infrastructure, and John Vantoff, the MPP, Temiskaming Cochrane, Nipissing. Moved and second by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Hewitt. Any comments? Councillor Whalen.
Yeah, this is one we've been chasing for a long time. You know, it's easy for a government, any government of the day, to say, well, we're going to spend $600 million on broadband. It's another thing to get them to spend money, though, and by declaring an essential service, they have to come out with an actual plan. So this is a good step forward.
Thank you, sir. Chris?
Just for the public, we'll make one small correction to the resolution that Mr. Vantoff is just Temiskaming Cochrane. Mr. Fedeli might be upset with us taking over Nipissing.
I wondered that when I read that, Chris, there, so we'll take Nipissing out of there. So, any other comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15C is the approval of the council meeting schedule between January 2021 and July 2021. And the motion reads, whereas bylaw 2008-160 as amended indicates that regular meetings of council shall be held on the first and third Tuesday of each month, commencing at 6 p.m. unless otherwise decided by the council. And now therefore be it resolved the council does hereby confirm the following schedule of meetings for the months of January 2021 through to July 2021. So, and everybody's got the dates there. So moved by Councillor MacArthur, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15D is Memo 024-2020 CS, the Municipal Benefits Renewal. And I got a motion be it resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledge receipt of Memo 024-2020 CS for information purposes. Your mover and seconder, Councillor Foley. Second by Councillor Ferrier. All in favor? That is carried. 15E is Memo 025-2020 CS, the Tax Arrears Certificate Extension Agreement. And I got a motion be resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledge receipt of Memo 025-2020 CS, and the Council delegates authority to the Treasurer to enter into extension agreements under Sections 378 of Section 1 under the Municipal Act. Moving to seconder, Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Foley. All in favor? That is carried. 15F is Administrative Report CS 042-2020, the lease agreement for Dr. Peter Hutton-Tapsky. And the motion reads be resolved the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 042-2020, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Dr. Peter Hutton-Tapsky for the rental of 648 square feet of office space in the Hillary Medical Center from January 1st, 2021 through to December 31st, 2024 at a rate of $14.10 per square foot plus HST. and to apply a 2% annual increase to the terms of the lease for consideration at the November 17th, 2020 regular council meeting. Moving to second of that motion, Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Hewitt. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15G is Administrative Report CS 043 2020, the City of Twisting Shores Emergency Response Plan. I got a motion to be resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 043 2020. The Council approves Appendix 1 of the Emergency Response Plan for the City of Twisting Shores as presented, and the Council directs staff to repeal Bylaw 2004-132 as amended and prepare the necessary bylaw to adopt a revised emergency response plan for consideration at the November 17, 2020 regular council meeting. So, move by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15H is Administrative Report CS 044 2020, the City of Twisting Shores tax collection. And motion reads, be it resolved that Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 044 2020, and the Council directs the Treasurer to proceed with tax collection as per the City's tax policy effective January 1st, 2021. Moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. All in favor? That is carried. 15I is Administrative Report CS 045 2020, the City of Twisting Shores tax collection at TAC properties. And the motion reads, be resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 045 2020, and the Council directs the Treasurer to proceed with the sale of land by public tender as per the City's tax policy for properties that had TAC registrations in 2019. So we're moving to second that motion. Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor MacArthur. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15J, Administrative Report LIB 002 2020, the Trillium Resilient Communities Fund. And I got a motion be resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge receipt of the Administrative Report LIB 002 2020, and the Council approve a funding application to the Ontario Trillium Foundation's Resilient Communities Fund. So, moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor LaFerrier. All in favor? That is carried. 15K is Administrative Report PW 025 2020, the 2020 Bridge and Culvert Inspection Program. And I got a motion be resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 025 2020. The Council hereby directs staff to place the 2020 inspection report in the biannual bridge inspection binder located at the municipal office at 325 Far Drive and on the municipal website. So, moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? So we've got some work to do in the next 3 or 4 years there to keep our bridges operable there. So all in favor of that motion? That is carried. 15L is Administrative Report PW 026 2020, the equipment rental for the excavator. My motion is be it resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge the receipt of Administrative Report PW 026 2020, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend Bylaw 2019-016 with Patterson Construction 2013 Incorporated to permit an extension of the agreement term for the equipment rental excavator complete with an operator for water sewer breaks and repairs at the following rental rates plus applicable taxes. So the float time is $145, regular time, breaker attachment $235 per hour, excavation time is $140 an hour. So all those rates be given for consideration at the November 17th regular council meeting. So moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Whalen. All in favor? That is carried. 15M, Administrative Report RS 010 2020, the Memorial Bench and Tree Policy. And I got a motion be resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report RS 010 2020, and the Council directs staff to repeal Bylaw 2013-088 and to prepare the necessary bylaw to adopt a memorial bench and tree policy for consideration at the regular meeting of council on November 17, 2020. So, going to move in a second there, Councillor MacArthur. Second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? Councillor Hewitt.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. In regards to this particular policy, we have our recreation director that may want to speak to the intention of this policy moving forward. We have a lot of opportunities, and our boardwalk is a resource that definitely has vitality to that we want to see progress on, as well as we supported a recreational master plan that this all fits into the scheme of things. So I'm not sure if you want to take the opportunity to address this motion, but certainly it's something that merits moving forth with.
Good evening, Matt.
Good evening, everyone. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Hewitt. So yes, thank you for asking me to speak on this today. Like the report says, this is an opportunity for us to clarify how we're going to implement these type of requests from the public, since we have been getting a fair number of them, especially this year. It seems as though we were getting quite a few. The purpose of the policy and the changes that we've made are to allow staff to more efficiently administer this program, as well as provide clarity to the public on where they can put these items and how that process is going to take place. Staff have noted that a number of members of the public have been requesting to place these items along the waterfront New Liskeard, and we would like to help spread out some of these items within other areas of the city where there is sort of some more space and we feel they're a bit more appropriate to place at this time. And it's clarified within the policy as allowing staff the flexibility to make some of those determinations and just keep everyone sort of on the same page so that they understand, again, how it works and keep it efficient for the city.
Sorry, thanks so much, Matt. I had my mic on, and hopefully that didn't pose any problems.
Thank you very much, Matt. Any other questions for Matt tonight? I know you made a good presentation to the Recreation Committee there last week as well, so that group is very well aware of what we're doing there as well. So thank you very much, sir. So moving on to the bylaws. Motion, pardon? Oh, I'll call the question. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you, sir. Item number 16, the bylaws. A motion be resolved that bylaw 2020-111, being a bylaw to authorize a lease agreement with Dr. Peter Hutton-Chapsky for the rental of space at the Hillbury Medical Center. Bylaw 2020-112, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program for the city's missing shores. Bylaw 2020-113, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-016 to enter into an agreement with Pedersen Construction 2013 Incorporated for the rental of an excavator and operator for water break repairs at various locations within the city's missing shores. Bylaw 2020-114, being a bylaw to adopt a memorial bench and tree policy for the city's missing shores. These bylaws be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. So, we're moving to seconder, moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments at this point? All in favor? That is carried. And a motion be it resolved that bylaw 2020-111, 112, 113, and 114 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. Moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor MacArthur. So, all in favor? That is carried. Scheduled meetings, we've got the next one coming up Tuesday, December the 1st, 2020, and the second one after that is Tuesday, December the 15th, before Christmas. So, reached our second question and answer period. Do we have any questions on the chat box tonight at all? Any questions from the members in the audience, staff? Any questions from council? So quiet tonight. So, motion, be resolved the council agrees to convene in closed session at 7:15 to discuss the following matters: adoption of the October 6, 2020 closed session minutes, and B, under Section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act 2001, the labor relations or employee negotiations, the collective agreement negotiating. The councillor Foley declared his conflict on that item, so he'll be able to go home early. So we were moving a second for that motion. So moved by Councillor MacArthur, second by Councillor Foley. So all in favor? That is carried. We're adjourned for a few minutes, and then we'll carry on with the closed session. So.